The city shimmered below. Penthouses kissed the clouds. From his balcony, Arthur, a man accustomed to the finer things, sipped his morning coffee. His life was a symphony of indulgence. Tailored suits, exotic vacations, and the city's most sought-after restaurants filled his days, but something felt amiss, a void hidden beneath layers of affluence. Arthur's gaze drifted to the street below. A figure caught his eye, hunched over near his building's waste bins. The man's clothes were threadbare, a stark contrast to the polished gleam of Arthur's world. He watched, intrigued as the man meticulously rummaged through the discarded refuse. Every morning the scene repeated. Arthur, lost in his routine, would notice the man's presence, a fleeting curiosity in his otherwise predictable day. He couldn't fathom why anyone would spend their time sifting through another's trash. The image lingered in his mind, an itch of curiosity he couldn't scratch. One morning the man wasn't there. Arthur found himself oddly disappointed, his gaze searching for the familiar figure. The man's absence, however temporary, had disrupted the rhythm of Arthur's day, forcing him to acknowledge the growing curiosity he felt. Days turned into a week. Arthur had almost forgotten the man by the bins. Until one morning, there he was again. The sight sparked a renewed sense of intrigue in Arthur. He watched as the man carefully collected items from the bins. Each day, the man arrived just as the sun began to rise. He never spoke to anyone, lost in his own world. Arthur's morning coffee ritual now included this peculiar observation. One chilly morning, Arthur noticed the man shivering. Bundled in mismatched clothing, the cold cut right through. Arthur felt a pang of sympathy for the man braving the elements. Driven by curiosity and compassion, Arthur decided to break the silence. He wanted to understand what compelled this man to return day after day. Arthur found himself drawn to the window more often. The man's dedication, his quiet dignity amidst the discarded and forgotten, was strangely captivating. What treasure did he find in their trash? Was it necessity, desperation, or something else entirely? He realized he envied the man's purpose. It was a stark contrast to the emptiness gnawing at Arthur's own existence. One evening, Arthur found himself restless. Sleep eluded him. He rose from his bed, the sheets feeling cold and impersonal. Arthur knew what he had to do. He had to understand the man's daily ritual. Taking a deep breath, Arthur left the sterile confines of his penthouse and descended to the street level. His heart thumped in his chest as he saw the familiar figure approach the bins. The next morning, Arthur waited.
"Excuse me?" Arthur called out, his voice echoing strangely in the morning stillness.
In his eyes, Arthur saw a flicker of surprise, perhaps a hint of apprehension, but no trace of shame or resentment. It emboldened Arthur to continue.
"I've seen you here in the mornings, and I wanted to ask, is there anything I can help you with?"
The man by the bins froze, his head slowly turning to face Arthur.
"I hope I'm not intruding," Arthur continued, his voice softer this time.
The man, though taken aback, looked at Arthur with quiet dignity. The man straightened, wiping his hands on his worn trousers. He looked at Arthur, his gaze steady and surprisingly clear.
"Thank you for your kindness, sir, but I'm not looking for handouts."
Arthur felt a flush of shame. Was that what he had assumed? That this man's life revolved around charity from people like him?
No, that wasn't my intention. I was curious. I see you here every day, and I wanted to understand why.
The man smiled, a tired but genuine expression that reached his eyes.
"I collect these for my neighbors. Many of them can't afford such luxuries, so I bring them news, stories, a glimpse of the world outside our little corner."
Arthur stood there, stunned. He had expected a tale of hardship, a plea for help. Instead, he was met with an act of selfless generosity. This man, who had so little in the eyes of the world, was rich in ways Arthur was only beginning to grasp. He looked at the discarded newspapers and magazines with newfound respect. To him, they were disposable, easily replaced. But to the man before him, they were a lifeline, a connection to the world, and a source of joy to share with others.
I never imagined.
Arthur stammered, his carefully constructed world tilting on its axis. He had spent a lifetime accumulating wealth, possessions, experiences. Yet here was a man finding true fulfillment in sharing scraps of information with his community. The man simply nodded, a knowing look in his eyes.
"There's beauty to be found in the most unexpected places, sir. Sometimes all it takes is a different perspective."
Arthur returned to his penthouse a changed man. The opulence that once defined his world now felt suffocating, the silence deafening. The encounter with the man by the bins had cracked the veneer of his luxurious life, revealing a hollowness he could no longer ignore. He spent the following days lost in thought. The man's words echoed in his mind, a stark reminder of the simple joys he had overlooked in his pursuit of material wealth. The newspapers and magazines, once symbols of fleeting entertainment, now represented something far more profound. He found himself drawn to the window, watching for the man's arrival each morning. But it wasn't mere curiosity anymore. It was respect, admiration, and a yearning for the quiet contentment the man seemed to possess, a contentment that transcended material possessions. One morning Arthur decided to join the man by the bins. He didn't say anything, just silently helped gather the discarded reading material. As they worked, a silent understanding passed between them, a shared appreciation for the simple act of bringing joy to others. The experience was transformative. Arthur found himself seeking out opportunities to connect with people on a deeper level, to look beyond their social standing or material wealth. He started volunteering at a local soup kitchen, the clatter of cutlery and the murmur of conversations a welcome change from the stifling silence of his penthouse. He discovered a passion for photography, capturing the raw beauty of the city and its inhabitants. Through his lens, he saw the world anew, finding poetry in the mundane, dignity in the overlooked, and hope in the most unexpected corners. His world, once defined by luxury and exclusivity, now encompassed a broader spectrum of human experience. He learned that true wealth lay not in what one possessed, but in the connections forged, the kindness shared, and the impact made on the lives of others.
And there he was, dressed in simple clothes, smiling as he helped the man by the bins. There was a sense of shared purpose and genuine connection between them.
Arthur continued to meet the man by the bins each morning. They developed a quiet friendship, their conversations filled with shared laughter and stories from their lives.
You know, I learned that the man's name was William, and he was a retired librarian. His love for books and knowledge was undimmed by his circumstances.
And Arthur, well, he intrigued me with his journey of self-discovery, his willingness to shed the trappings of wealth to find meaning in simpler pursuits.
Their mornings together became a ritual, a time for reflection and connection. They were an unlikely pair, the wealthy businessman and the retired librarian, brought together by a chance encounter. Arthur realized that William had given him a gift far more valuable than any material possession, the gift of perspective. William had shown him that true happiness was not found in the pursuit of more, but in the appreciation of what one already had, and in the joy of sharing it with others. Arthur's life, once a symphony of indulgence, now resonated with a different kind of music. It was the music of laughter shared over a simple meal, the quiet satisfaction of a day spent volunteering, and the joy of capturing a fleeting moment of beauty through his lens. He still enjoyed the finer things in life, but they no longer held the same power over him. He had discovered a deeper fulfillment, a sense of purpose that transcended the acquisition of material wealth.
You know, Arthur's story became a quiet legend among his circle of acquaintances. Some dismissed it as a passing phase, a fleeting dalliance with a more grounded existence. Others were inspired by his transformation, recognizing a kindred spirit searching for something more in a world obsessed with superficiality.
But for Arthur, it was not about labels or judgments. It was about living a life that felt authentic, a life that honored the connections he forged and the impact he made on the world around him. In the grand tapestry of life, Arthur and William's story was but a single thread. Yet, like all threads, it intertwined with countless others, creating a richer, more intricate design. Their encounter, born out of curiosity and compassion, had a ripple effect, touching the lives of those around them in ways both big and small.
Arthur's transformation inspired others to reevaluate their own priorities, to look beyond the superficial and embrace the simple joys of human connection.
And William's quiet generosity continued to brighten the lives of his neighbors, reminding them that even in the most challenging of circumstances, there was always something to be grateful for.
Their story served as a poignant reminder that true wealth lay not in the abundance of possessions, but in the richness of relationships, the power of shared experiences, and the transformative potential of human connection. For in the end, it is the connections we forge, the kindness we share, and the love we give and receive that truly define the worth of our lives.